my name is Allie Bentley, and I am super excited to share with you what I learned this semester in our course. I wanted to share a little bit about myself. I am a second grade teacher, and my class has 18 students. They're a very wide range of kids. I have 4 that are above grade level, 7 that are on grade level, 4 that are slightly below grade level, and 3 that have learning disabilities or significant needs to support them through the day. This group is super, super sweet. They're a caring group. They're very silly. They're very chatty. They love to talk, and sometimes this makes it a little bit difficult to get things done quickly. But they're also super creative, and I love having them. And I wanted to tell you a little bit more about my at-risk students. My first at-risk student is Evan. He has a specific learning disability in reading and in math. He really has a hard time with those basic foundational reading skills and also problem-solving skills that come to math. Lainey has ADHD and has a 504 plan in place. She's a super sweet girl, but when she gets thinking about something, she cannot move on until she gets it out. So sometimes it puts her a little bit behind when we are working on problems. She also benefits from very clear, basic step-by-step instructions. And then I have Elliot, who is a student with autism in my classroom. He spends most of his day in the autistic support class. However, he does join us for inclusion activities, our specials, lunch, and recess too. So in the 4th week of our semester, we learned a little bit about assessment and how we can use data to adjust instruction and how we can reteach students who need more support. And in our reading, what really stands out to me is what McCleskey said about just having ongoing monitoring and progress monitoring. And that's something that I include daily. You know, a couple weeks ago, we were learning about subtraction with regrouping in my classroom. And we did a little whiteboard check just to see where they were, and that was an assessment that I used. And I noticed that half of my class were really having a hard time focusing and understanding the regrouping part. So that's when I stopped, intervened, and I said, you know what, guys, we're not going to move forward. We are going to stop and learn how to do this again. And I was able to intervene right away and support my students. Some examples that I learned from the text are just exit tickets, using them to check at the end of the class period, giving the students immediate feedback. This was a big one, and this is one I'm actually actively working on, especially with my at-risk learners, Evan and Lainey, just because I want to make sure they're getting that feedback. And then observations. So I kind of I walk around, see what they're doing, and if I'm noticing it's not matching up with what we learned, that's when I intervene. And an assessment recommendation I actually wrote my report on this, was learning journals. I give the students a prompt of, what did you learn today? And this is beneficial for all my students, not just my at-risk students, but my higher thinking students as well. I have given students an opportunity to share what they learned for the day, and I have had higher level thinkers write nothing. And that says a lot right there. If they're not writing anything, then that means that they need retaught as well. So I really use those journals to get them to think about what they learned, which is also the next thing that we learned about in our course this semester was cognitive and metacognitive strategies. So that's pretty much doing the task versus thinking about the task. And with that, I really wanted to start getting my students to think about what they're thinking. And ways that I modeled that in my classroom were just think aloud. So I'm thinking out loud, I'm making predictions, I'm talking through what I'm doing so that way they can clearly see how I'm doing it to model for them. I also break things down into steps, and I really like doing that to support the students. And just self-monitoring. I'm asking myself questions. Why did this happen? When I'm reading a Frog and Toad book, they love Frog and Toad. When I'm reading a Frog and Toad book, why did Frog do that? Why did Toad think that? And I really help them. And that also really helps my students, Evan and Lainey, just thinking about, hey, I can do that. I can think out loud. And I've actually caught Lainey working on that a lot. She's like, when she's reading her independent book, I understand why that happened, but what led that to that? So I just help them doing that. And a way that I use that in my classroom is using reciprocal teaching. I pull the kids into small reading groups, and we use different things, different skills. One kid works on predictions, and this is good for my student Evan because he really has a hard time thinking out loud. But when he hears people make predictions, he starts to think, oh, maybe I think that, but maybe I think that as well. And then that makes him ask good questions. So he's typically my questioner. But he does all the jobs, but using those different skills, clarify and summarize, we use those after reading to support their metacognition in the classroom. The third thing that we learned about was explicit instruction, which is really molded by good modeling, scaffolding, and giving the students practice. Those were the big things that I learned from our text that week. And one of the big things, and this is actually my recommendation as well, was the I do, we do, you do model. And this model really helps the students understand what they're doing. One way that I've used this in my class was just with writing prompts. I like to help my students with writing, and we're working on paragraph writing, so I will start for them and I will model it and how I expect them to do it. And then we'll do a prompt together, and then I'll give them a practice prompt. And with my at-risk students, I give them some sentence starters, but seeing how I do it really helps them identify, this is what I need to include. And I also give them little checklists, so that way it helps them understand and move forward. And the last thing we really learned about was engagement, which was active student response, visible thinking, and frequent responses. One thing I actually really liked about this was, and I actually stole this from our teaching this semester, was the choral feedback and the choral cards. I really started printing those out and just giving them a choice. They can lift up yes, they can lift up no. And this is really good, especially for Evan, because he's very shy and he doesn't like to share out loud. But he does do a really great job with them, and it gets him more involved. And it's not even just my at-risk students. Some of my kids who are kind of scared to shy out, or too shy to read out. It gives them a chance to share what they're thinking while also including, not putting them out for everyone to see. So I would recommend those. We also use peer tutoring. I use peer tutoring for spring math when I partner them for fact fluency and have them work together. And just using technology, Kahoots, Blookits, that's such a reward too, and it's so fun for them. Some of the barriers I would say with these practices that I recommend are just time. It takes a lot of time to mold everything the way you want it to, and it takes a lot of consistency and practice. It's not going to work. Rome was not built in a day. So you just have to keep with it and use that time. And sometimes the kids, depends on, like right now we're going through winter break, winter break, fall break. And it's just a lot for them when they have a lot going on and they're just tired. And some of the kids come in with things that we can't even imagine. So those are some of the big barriers, and just having enough time to do it all, because we all have so many things to do. For future professional development and research, I would just say some better tools to help us. What I personally think is just a little bit more training as well. And I would love to actually go in and be a fly on the wall in a classroom and really see how another teacher puts all of these practices into place, especially with the explicit instruction and the classroom engagement, just to gauge more ideas of, how we can really be modeling these effectively for our at-risk learners. Because I always want to make sure I'm doing the right thing for my students and the ones who have a lot more need. So in summary, we learned a lot about assessment, we learned a lot about metacognitive strategies, engagement, and just providing them opportunities for explicit instruction. And using those have really helped me. I've tried a lot of new things this semester and in my classroom, and it's been really nice to see it connect with what we've learned. So I really appreciate you watching this, and thank you for all that you've done to help us grow. And I'm super excited to continue using these strategies in my class.